You're about to hear a dark story. If you enjoy listening to real events from dark worlds, subscribe to the channel. The answer reveals something about strategy that most people never understand. Sometimes the most effective way to defeat an enemy isn't to avoid their attack. It's to redirect their violence so precisely that they become the victims of their own aggression. But how did Bumpy Johnson discover Riina's bombing plan? How did he intercept a device that was already planted and armed? And what did he do to turn Sicily's most sophisticated explosive into a weapon against the man who'd created it? September 3rd, 1964. Palermo, Sicily. Salvatore Riina was planning the most ambitious assassination in Mafia history. The elimination of Bumpy Johnson, the one man who dared to challenge Sicilian authority on American soil. Riina was 34 years old, known throughout Sicily as the Beast for his unprecedented brutality. He'd built his reputation on overwhelming force and complete disregard for traditional Mafia codes that governed violence. Bumpy Johnson represented something Riina had never encountered: an American criminal who understood Sicilian culture better than most Sicilians, who could match traditional strategy with American innovations, and who refused to show proper respect for the ancient bloodlines governing organized crime in Italy. The conflict had been building for months since Bumpy established independent heroin routes that bypassed traditional Sicilian families. This wasn't just about money. It was about whether Sicilian Mafia families would continue controlling global organized crime, or whether Americans would create their own rules. The bomb Riina ordered was a masterpiece of destruction. 15 pounds of plastic explosive, a 72-hour timer, and power to obliterate a city block. It was designed not just to kill Bumpy, but to send a message to every American criminal who thought they could challenge Sicilian supremacy. But at 11:47 p.m. on September 7th, 1964, the bomb exploded not in Bumpy Johnson's Cadillac, but in Salvatore Riina's own living room in Palermo, creating a mystery discussed in Mafia circles for decades. The answer reveals something about strategy that most people never understand. Sometimes the most effective way to defeat an enemy isn't to avoid their attack. It's to redirect their violence so precisely that they become the victims of their own aggression. But how did Bumpy Johnson discover Riina's bombing plan? How did he intercept a device that was already planted and armed? And what did he do to turn Sicily's most sophisticated explosive into a weapon against the man who'd created it? The story begins 3 weeks earlier, when Bumpy Johnson received information that would change everything about how he understood the global drug trade and the enemies who wanted to eliminate him. August 15th, 1964. Bumpy Johnson was sitting in his office above Small's Paradise when Illinois Gordon walked in carrying a telegram that had just arrived from Rome, Italy. The message was short but alarming. Sicilian problem requires immediate attention. Traditional methods insufficient. American innovation necessary. Contact established through mutual friend. The telegram was signed with a single initial. But Bumpy recognized the sender immediately. Meyer Lansky, the financial genius who'd been managing money for organized crime families across America and Europe for over 20 years. If Lansky was reaching out about a Sicilian problem, it meant trouble that extended far beyond American borders. Bumpy called the number provided and reached Lansky at a Rome hotel. "Bumpy, we need to talk about Salvatore Riina and what he's planning for you." The conversation revealed disturbing intelligence. Riina was building a bomb to make an example that would terrify every American criminal. This wasn't a simple shooting. Riina wanted something spectacular and devastating. "He's building a bomb that will take out you, your car, and probably half a city block," Lansky explained. "The bomb is being built by Giuseppe Marchetti, Sicily's most skilled explosives expert. If this gets to New York and into your car, you won't survive. But Lansky wasn't just calling to warn Bumpy. He was offering assistance that could turn Riina's plan into a demonstration of American criminal innovation. I've got a contact in Palermo who can help us intercept the bomb before it leaves Sicily, Lansky explained. But if we're going to do this, we need to do it in a way that sends a message back to Riina about the consequences of threatening American operations. August 18th, 1964. Bumpy decided to go to Sicily to deal with Riina personally. The trip required careful planning and absolute secrecy. Lansky provided necessary resources, a passport as Ellsworth, Washington, a jazz musician touring European nightclubs with business credentials and letters of introduction. More importantly, Lansky provided contact information for Maria Torino, a widow whose husband had been killed by Riina's men, and who'd been secretly documenting Corleuzzi activities. August 25th, 1964. Bumpy arrived in Palermo and met Maria at a cafe near the cathedral. Maria was 52, a former school teacher whose construction company owner husband had refused to pay Riina's protection racket and died from the beating that followed. Over the next hour, Maria provided detailed intelligence. The bomb was being built in Marchetti's warehouse 3 kilometers outside the city, guarded by 4 men during the day and 2 at night, scheduled for completion September 1st and shipping to New York September 5th. Most importantly, she provided Riina's daily routine: breakfast at home, visiting his mother at 10 a.m., business at his social club noon to 6 p.m., dinner at home, evenings in his living room reading and listening to radio. Very predictable, very routine-oriented. The predictability that made Riina feel secure would become the key to Bumpy's counterattack. August 28, 1964, 2:30 a.m. Bumpy Johnson and Maria Torino approached Giuseppe Marchetti's warehouse under cover of darkness. The warehouse was located in an industrial area outside Palermo, surrounded by similar buildings that housed legitimate construction and manufacturing operations. The guards were more focused on preventing theft of valuable construction materials than detecting sophisticated infiltration operations. Bumpy and Maria spent 30 minutes observing the facility from a safe distance, noting the patrol patterns of the 2 night guards and identifying potential access points. The guards walked a predictable circuit every 20 minutes, spending most of their time in a small office near the main entrance where they played cards and drank coffee. At 3 a.m., during the guards' card game, Bumpy and Maria approached the warehouse from the rear and found an unlocked window that provided access to the interior. The window opened into a storage area filled with construction equipment and materials that would mask any sounds of their movement. Inside the warehouse, they found Marchetti's workshop, a clean, well-organized space filled with electrical equipment, timing devices, and the partially completed bomb that was intended to eliminate Bumpy Johnson. The device was more sophisticated than Bumpy had expected. 15 pounds of plastic explosive molded into a shape that could be attached to the underside of a car, invisible to casual inspection, but powerful enough to destroy any vehicle and kill anyone within 50 feet of the detonation. A timer mechanism that could be programmed for any detonation time up to 72 hours after activation, giving the bomber time to escape the area before the explosion occurred. A trigger system so sensitive that it would detonate if anyone tried to move or disarm the device without knowing the proper deactivation sequence. But Bumpy wasn't there to disarm the bomb. He was there to redirect it, to transform Riina's weapon into an instrument of his own strategy. Working carefully with tools that Maria had brought from her deceased husband's construction equipment collection, Bumpy began the delicate process of modifying the bomb's timer mechanism. The work required absolute precision. One wrong movement, one miscalculation, and the device would explode, killing both him and Maria, while accomplishing Riina's objective of eliminating his American rival. The modification took 90 minutes of painstaking work. Bumpy had to disassemble the timer mechanism without triggering the explosive, reprogram the targeting coordinates from Bumpy's car to a different location, adjust the detonation schedule from the planned assassination timeline to a timing that would serve his own purposes, and add components that would ensure the bomb would explode exactly where and when he wanted it to. The most complex part of the modification was changing the timer's target location. The original device was designed to detonate when attached to a specific vehicle, but Bumpy needed it to explode in a specific building at a specific time. This required adding a secondary timer system that would override the original programming and activate the explosive according to his revised schedule. When the work was completed, the bomb looked identical to the device that Marchetti had been building. The modifications were invisible to external inspection, and even Marchetti himself would not be able to detect the changes without completely disassembling the timer mechanism, something he would have no reason to do once he believed the device was completed according to Riina's specifications. August 30th, 1964. Giuseppe Marchetti completed what he believed was the bomb intended for Bumpy Johnson and prepared it for shipment to New York. Marchetti had no way of knowing that the device he was preparing had been modified by the intended target, that the timer had been reprogrammed, or that the bomb would never leave Sicily. As far as he knew, he'd created the most sophisticated assassination device of his career, and would soon be collecting payment from Riina for eliminating an American criminal who'd challenged Sicilian authority. The bomb was carefully packaged in a shipping crate designed to look like industrial machinery being exported to American manufacturing companies. The documentation was perfect. The export permits were legitimate, and the shipping schedule would deliver the device to New York within a week of leaving Palermo. But the bomb never made it to the cargo ship. September 2nd, 6 a.m. Italian customs officials, acting on an anonymous tip from Maria Torino, intercepted the shipping crate containing Marchetti's bomb. Marchetti was arrested for illegal weapons manufacturing. The confiscation was exactly what Bumpy had planned. While authorities examined what they believed was evidence, they were holding a modified bomb still armed according to Bumpy's revised timeline. September 3rd, 10:30 a.m. Using Lansky's documentation, Bumpy examined the confiscated device as an American businessman investigating shipping security threats. During examination, he activated the timer for exactly 11:47 p.m. September 7th. He arranged for the bomb to be returned to the shipper for proper documentation, delivering it directly to Marchetti's warehouse, from where it would reach its final destination according to Bumpy's plan. September 5th. The bomb was returned to Marchetti, with instructions to obtain proper permits. Confused by customs rejection, Marchetti decided to deliver the device directly to Riina's home for safekeeping. This decision was exactly what Bumpy had anticipated. By creating bureaucratic complications that forced Marchetti to change his shipping plans, Bumpy had ensured that the bomb would end up in Riina's residence instead of on a ship to New York. September 7th, 1964, 8:30 p.m. Salvatore Riina was having dinner with his family when Giuseppe Marchetti arrived at his home, carrying the bomb that was supposed to eliminate Bumpy Johnson. Riina's home was a modest two-story house in a residential neighborhood, deliberately unremarkable to avoid attracting unwanted attention from law enforcement or rival families. But inside, the house reflected Riina's success and power, expensive furniture, fine artwork, and the kind of luxury that came from controlling Sicily's most profitable criminal enterprises. Don Salvatore, Marchetti said nervously as Riina's wife and children finished their meal. There were problems with the customs authorities. They rejected the shipment because of documentation issues. I need time to resolve the export permits before we can send the device to America. Riina was annoyed by the delay but understood that international shipping could be complicated by bureaucratic requirements that were difficult to predict or control. How long will it take to fix the documentation problems? Maybe a week, Maybe 2 weeks, Marchetti replied, his voice betraying the stress of having his professional work questioned by government officials. The customs officials want additional permits that I didn't know were required, but the device is ready to use. All we need is to get it to New York and plant it in the target's vehicle. Riina made the decision that would seal his fate. Bring the device inside. We'll keep it here until you can arrange proper shipping. I want to examine the work you've done and discuss the technical details of how the assassination will be carried out. Marchetti carried the bomb into Riina's living room, a comfortable space with leather furniture, family photographs, and a large window that overlooked the neighborhood where Riina had lived for the past 8 years. He placed the device carefully on a wooden table near the window, where the natural light would allow Riina to examine the craftsmanship and engineering that had gone into creating the weapon. For the next 3 hours, from 9 p.m. until midnight, Riina studied the bomb with the fascination of someone who'd commissioned a work of art. He admired the precision of Marchetti's engineering, asking detailed questions about the timer mechanism, the detonation sequence, and the expected blast radius when the device exploded in New York. This will send a message that American criminals will never forget, Riina said, running his fingers along the smooth surface of the explosive casing. When this detonates under Bumpy Johnson's car, every American gangster will understand that Sicilian authority cannot be challenged without consequences. Marchetti explained the technical specifications. The timer could be set for up to 72 hours. Giving the assassination team time to plant the device and escape New York before the explosion occurred. The blast would be powerful enough to destroy any vehicle and kill anyone within a 50-foot radius. The detonation would look like an accident or a mechanical failure, making it difficult for investigators to prove that Johnson had been murdered. At 11:30 p.m., Riina dismissed Marchetti and sent his family members to bed, preferring to spend some time alone with the device that would restore Sicilian supremacy in international organized crime. He poured himself a glass of wine and settled into his favorite chair, studying the bomb and imagining the moment when news would reach Sicily that Bumpy Johnson had been eliminated. At 11:45 p.m., Riina was reading a newspaper article about American organized crime activities when he heard a soft clicking sound from the direction of the bomb. He looked up from his newspaper, mildly curious about what might have caused the noise. At 11:47 p.m., the bomb exploded. The detonation was heard 15 blocks away, shattering windows throughout the neighborhood and setting off car alarms that would continue screaming for hours. Residents poured out of their homes to discover that Salvatore Riina's house had been reduced to a smoking crater, with debris scattered across 3 city blocks. Emergency responders who arrived at the scene found Riina's body in what had been his living room, killed instantly by the explosive device that he'd commissioned to murder Bumpy Johnson. The blast had destroyed not only his home and his life, but also his reputation as Sicily's most dangerous and untouchable criminal leader. September 8th, 6 a.m. News of Riina's death spread throughout Palermo and reached Corleone's family members who couldn't understand how their leader had been killed by his own weapon in his own home. The explosion had created a crime scene that baffled Italian investigators. The blast pattern indicated a professional-grade explosive device, but there was no evidence of forced entry, no signs of struggle, and no indication that anyone other than Riina had been present when the bomb detonated. The device had exploded from inside his living room, but no one could explain how an external enemy could have planted a bomb in such a secure location. Giuseppe Marchetti, who'd been arrested after the explosion on suspicion of being responsible for the bombing, maintained his innocence and insisted that the device had been built according to specifications and should have been shipped to America for use against Bumpy Johnson. His confusion was genuine. He truly couldn't understand how a bomb he designed for remote detonation could have exploded prematurely in Riina's residence. Italian police investigators found no evidence of sabotage, no indication of external interference, and no explanation for how a bomb designed for automotive attachment had detonated in a residential living room. The forensic analysis revealed that the device had functioned exactly as designed, but the timing and location made no sense according to conventional assassination methodology. The official investigation concluded that Salvatore Riina had died in an accidental explosion caused by mishandling of dangerous materials in his home. The case was closed as an industrial accident rather than a homicide, since investigators could find no evidence of criminal intent by anyone other than the deceased. But within Mafia circles throughout Sicily and southern Italy, the truth was understood differently. Word spread through criminal networks that Salvatore Riina had been eliminated by Bumpy Johnson, using a strategy so sophisticated that it had turned Riina's own assassination plot into the weapon of his destruction. The psychological impact on other Sicilian crime families was immediate and profound. If Bumpy Johnson could reach into Sicily itself, into the home of the most powerful and dangerous mafia leader, and turn his own weapon against him, then no one was safe from American retaliation. The traditional belief that Sicilian criminals were superior to their American counterparts had been shattered by a demonstration of strategic thinking that surpassed anything in European organized crime history. September 10, 1964. Bumpy Johnson returned to New York under his own name, carrying nothing more suspicious than souvenirs from what appeared to have been a successful jazz tour of European nightclubs. Meyer Lansky met him at the airport with news that would confirm the success of their operation. The Corleonesi family had officially withdrawn from any plans to challenge American organized crime operations. Riina's death had convinced Sicilian families that competing with American criminals was more dangerous than cooperating with them. "They're calling it the American innovation," Lansky explained as they drove back to Manhattan through the evening traffic. "The idea that you can turn an enemy's weapon against them so precisely that they become the victims of their own aggression. It's something they'd never seen before, and they don't want to see it again." Every family from Naples to Palermo is talking about what happened to Riina, and they're all reaching the same conclusion. Americans are too dangerous to fight. The message had been received throughout the European organized crime community. American criminals weren't just competitors to be eliminated through traditional methods. They were strategists who could turn any attack into a counterattack, any threat into an opportunity, and any enemy weapon into a tool of their own survival and their enemy's destruction. Maria Torino received $50,000 and a note. "Your husband's death has been properly avenged." Giuseppe Marchetti served 18 months and never built another bomb. The Corleonesi family fragmented into smaller groups, focused on local operations. September 3rd, 1964. The day Riina learned that planting a bomb in someone else's car can explode in your own living room, if that someone understands redirection. The day Bumpy Johnson proved that the most dangerous response to assassination isn't retaliation. It's redirection so precise, your enemy kills himself with his own weapon. Some bombs destroy their targets. Some bombs destroy their makers. And some bombs teach entire organizations that challenging American strategists is more dangerous than cooperating with them.